building customer trust. Trust is the bedrock of any successful business relationship. And in a world where people are more connected and more informed than ever, expectations have shifted. Customers want transparency, consistency, and follow-through. If they don't feel confident in what a brand says and does, they simply move on. That's why trust isn't just a nice to have. It's a core driver of retention, loyalty, and long-term stability. When a business earns trust, it becomes more resilient. A trusted brand is far better positioned to ride out economic downturns and unexpected market shifts because it has something many competitors don't: a customer base that stays. That loyalty protects revenue, strengthens reputation, and makes it easier to attract new customers, even when conditions are tough. Trust also acts like a buffer during disruption. In a crisis, people look for clarity and reassurance. Businesses that communicate clearly, explain changes early, and keep customers informed tend to hold onto relationships more effectively than those that go quiet or get vague. That continuity matters because the companies that protect trust during hard periods usually recover faster once things stabilize. Over time, trust becomes tightly linked to customer loyalty. People who trust a brand don't just buy again, they recommend it. They mention it to friends, share it with colleagues, and bring it up when someone asks for a reliable option. That kind of word of mouth carries weight because it comes from real experience, not marketing. It also reduces the pressure to constantly chase new customers because repeat business and referrals do more of the heavy lifting. Trust also improves a company's ability to adapt. When customers feel secure, they're more willing to give honest feedback, explain what's not working, and share what they actually need. That creates a healthier loop between business and customer. It becomes easier to improve, refine, and evolve without guessing, because you're building in partnership with the people you serve. At its best, trust creates stability. Loyal customers provide consistent revenue, but they also provide confidence. They're the reason a business can keep moving forward when conditions get unpredictable. And while trust takes time to build, it's built in fairly simple ways. Doing what you said you'd do, communicating clearly, being transparent when things change, and maintaining quality even when it would be easier not to. In the end, trust is a long-term investment. It doesn't just help a business grow, it helps it last. Authenticity and transparency. Authenticity isn't a marketing tactic. It's the feeling customers get when what you say matches what you do. And transparency is how you prove it, especially when things aren't perfect. One of the simplest ways to build trust is to share challenges openly. If you're dealing with delays, supply issues, operational friction, or something behind the scenes that affects customers, saying it clearly creates a sense of partnership. People understand that businesses hit obstacles. What they don't tolerate is silence, vague excuses, or finding out too late. When you're honest about what's happening, you humanize the brand, and you give customers a reason to stay patient and stay connected. That openness can also improve the business itself. When customers feel included, they often respond with useful feedback and fresh ideas. You're not just broadcasting updates, you're inviting conversation. And that two-way relationship can lead to better decisions, stronger loyalty, and solutions you wouldn't have found in isolation. Pricing is another trust lever, and it's one of the fastest ways to lose credibility if it's unclear. Customers don't just want fair pricing, they want predictable pricing. They want to know what they're paying for, what's included, and what might cost extra. When pricing is straightforward, it reduces anxiety and makes the buying decision feel safer. When pricing is hidden behind complicated terms or surprise add-ons, The customer experience starts with doubt. Clear pricing also prevents problems later. If you communicate the structure up front, including any additional costs or conditions, you reduce misunderstandings and avoid disputes. And in a crowded market, that clarity becomes a differentiator, because honesty is easier to feel than it is to claim. Credibility is built in the small moments of communication. Being upfront about product limitations, realistic timelines, and service changes shows respect. If something is delayed, say it early. If there's a constraint, explain it plainly. Customers don't expect perfection, but they do expect to be informed. That kind of honesty protects the relationship, even when the news isn't ideal. Transparency also needs to show up across the whole customer experience. It's not just what you say, it's what customers can see. Updates on order status, clear explanations when something changes, and consistent information across channels all reinforce reliability. And in a time where privacy matters more than ever, being clear about how customer data is used and protected is part of trust too. If people don't feel safe, they won't stay engaged. Authenticity is what turns trust into loyalty. Customers are drawn to brands that feel real and aligned with their values. When your actions match your message, people don't just buy, they stay. And when they stay, they often become advocates. They recommend you because the experience felt honest, not because they were persuaded. Over time, that's how trust compounds, not through big claims, but through clear communication, transparent decisions, and consistency when it counts. Prioritizing customer service. Customer service isn't a department. It's the experience people remember when they decide whether to come back. In a competitive market, exceptional service isn't a nice extra. It's one of the fastest ways to earn trust and build loyalty. Every interaction is a chance to either reinforce confidence or introduce doubt. And over time, those small moments add up. Strong customer service also helps a brand stand out. When two businesses offer similar products or similar pricing, the deciding factor is often how customers feel they were treated. Brands that consistently show up with clarity, speed, and care don't just retain customers, they get recommended. That word of mouth effect can be more powerful than any campaign because it comes from real experience. The key is meeting customer needs across the whole journey, not just at the point of sale. The first impression matters, but so does what happens after the purchase. Customers want clear information before they buy, smooth support while they're buying, and dependable help after they've bought. If you map the customer journey, you can spot the moments where confusion or friction usually happens, and you can design those touchpoints to feel simple and reassuring. During the purchasing process, customers value straightforward communication. What's available, what it costs, what happens next, and when they can expect delivery or access. After the purchase, follow-ups and support shape the story they tell themselves about the brand. If the experience stays smooth, customers feel confident they made the right decision. If it gets messy or silent, regret sets in quickly. To improve the customer service experience, businesses usually win by doing the basics well, consistently. That means training staff properly so they can respond with both competence and empathy. It means using technology in a supportive way, like streamlining inquiries and speeding up replies, without making customers feel trapped in automation. It means encouraging feedback, not just collecting it, and actually responding to what people say. It also means personalizing where it makes sense, so customers feel recognized, not processed. And it means offering support in the places customers already are. Some people prefer email, others want a quick message, others want a call. A good support system doesn't force one route, it offers a few clear options and makes each one reliable. Staff training is where customer service becomes real. People don't deliver great service by accident. They need product knowledge, yes, but they also need the softer skills that customers notice immediately: listening, calm communication, problem solving, and emotional awareness. A customer who feels understood is far easier to help than a customer who feels dismissed. A customer-centric culture also matters. When staff feel empowered to make sensible decisions that help the customer, service improves fast. Customers don't want to hear, "I can't do that." They want to hear, "Here's what I can do." That shift often comes from trust within the team, clear boundaries, and permission to solve problems without unnecessary escalation. Finally, customer service has to be measured. You can't improve what you don't observe. Regular feedback, simple satisfaction checks, and clear service metrics help you understand what's working and what's slipping. More importantly, acting on feedback builds trust. When customers see their input leads to real changes, they feel valued, and that turns good service into long-term loyalty. In the end, prioritizing customer service is about consistency, doing the right things in the right moments every time. That's what customers remember, and that's what keeps them coming back. Customer-centric mindset. A customer-centric mindset starts with a simple idea. The customer isn't an interruption. They're the reason the business exists. And in a competitive market, understanding customer needs isn't optional. It's the difference between staying relevant and slowly fading out. It begins with listening properly. Not just hearing the obvious requests, but paying attention to what customers are trying to achieve, what they're worried about, and where they're getting stuck. Some of that comes through direct feedback, but a lot of it shows up in patterns: repeated questions, common complaints, support tickets, comments, reviews, and even the way people behave on your site or in your product. When you gather those signals consistently, you stop guessing. You start designing from reality. Respecting customer needs also means respecting how they want to interact. Some customers want fast answers. Some want reassurance. Some want detail. A customer-centric business adapts its communication to meet people where they are, instead of forcing everyone through the same rigid process. Personalization isn't about being clever, it's about being attentive. It's showing customers you understand what matters to them, and you're willing to respond accordingly. From there, the goal is to build genuine relationships, not just transactions. People don't stay loyal because a product exists. They stay loyal because they feel understood, supported, and valued. That happens through consistent engagement and useful experiences at every touch point. It's the follow-up that helps, the message that clarifies, the support that feels human, the guidance that reduces effort. Over time, those moments build emotional trust, and emotional trust is what keeps people coming back. Trust grows faster when a business is transparent. Customers want to know what to expect, how decisions are made, and what the brand stands for in practice. When you communicate clearly about policies, changes, and limitations, customers feel informed instead of managed. And when people feel informed, they're more likely to stay, even when something goes wrong. A customer-centric mindset becomes real when feedback leads to action. Asking for feedback is easy. Using it is what builds credibility. When customers see their suggestions reflected in updates, improvements, or clearer processes, they feel heard. That improves satisfaction, and it also drives innovation, because the best ideas often come directly from the people using the product or service every day. To make this consistent, customer centricity has to be cultural. It can't live only in support or only in marketing. It has to show up in product decisions, onboarding, operations, and leadership priorities. Everyone in the organization needs to understand what good customer experience means and how their role affects it. Training helps, but leadership behavior matters most. When leadership prioritizes the customer in decisions, the rest of the business follows. Tools can support this, but they don't replace the mindset. CRM systems can help track customer interactions and preferences. Analytics can reveal where customers struggle or drop off. Feedback tools can organize insights so they don't get lost. Used properly, these tools help a business stay responsive and make decisions based on evidence rather than assumptions. Ultimately, being customer-centric is about alignment, listening, understanding, and improving in a loop. When a business builds around the customer's reality, it doesn't just improve satisfaction, it improves resilience. Because it becomes the kind of brand customers trust, return to, and recommend. Proactive and honest communication. When things change, customers don't just notice the change, they notice how you handle it. In periods of market volatility, internal shifts, or external disruption, keeping customers informed becomes a trust signal. Silence creates uncertainty. Vague updates create suspicion. Clear communication creates stability. If customers understand what's happening, what it means for them, and what to expect next, they feel safer staying with you, even when conditions are difficult. The goal isn't to over-communicate. It's to communicate early, clearly, and consistently. Be transparent about changes in service, delivery timelines, pricing, or availability. When people feel like they're finding things out late, trust erodes fast. When they feel included and respected, the relationship strengthens. During uncertainty, using more than one channel helps. Some customers will read an email. Others will only see a social post. Others want a direct message or an in-product update. A multi-channel approach makes sure the message lands where customers already are, without forcing them to hunt for information. The most important part is consistency. The same message, the same facts, the same expectations, everywhere. Tone matters too. People don't want corporate language when they're worried. They want calm, human clarity. Acknowledge that the situation may be frustrating. Tell them what you know. Tell them what you don't know yet. And tell them when you'll update them again. That combination, empathy plus structure, is what reduces anxiety. Regular updates build confidence because they show reliability. Even if the update is small, the act of updating tells customers you're paying attention and you're not hiding. A simple weekly rhythm works well in busy or unstable periods. It might be a short note on service availability, restock timelines, support wait times, or progress on a fix. Consistency is what people remember. It also helps to share forward motion, not just problems. If the business is adapting, improving processes, or finding solutions, say so. Customers don't need a victory lap, but they do benefit from knowing there's momentum and direction. It reinforces the idea that the business is capable and that their decision to stay is sensible. A major part of proactive communication is addressing anxieties directly. Customers often worry about practical things, whether they'll receive what they paid for, whether support will respond, whether the product will keep working, whether the business is stable. You don't need to overshare, but you do need to remove uncertainty where you can. If delays are happening, explain why in plain language, share realistic timelines, and update those timelines if they change. That honesty turns frustration into understanding because customers feel respected. Transparent communication isn't pretending everything is fine. It's being honest about setbacks while showing the steps you're taking to fix them. It's also inviting feedback and treating it as useful data, not as criticism. When customers see that their input shapes improvements, trust deepens. And when trust deepens, customers don't just tolerate change, they support you through it. In short, proactive communication is how you protect the relationship during uncertainty. It's one of the simplest ways to turn a difficult period into a moment of credibility. Personalized customer experiences. Personalization is no longer about marketing cleverness. It's about relevance. Customers are surrounded by noise, so the brands that stand out are the ones that speak to the right person, with the right message, at the right moment. That's where data helps. When you collect and understand customer signals, like what people browse, what they buy, what they ask, and what they ignore, you stop relying on assumptions. You begin to see patterns in preferences, needs, and behavior. And once you can see those patterns, you can communicate in a way that feels useful instead of generic. A simple example is using purchase history or browsing behavior to shape recommendations. If someone consistently looks at a particular category, you can highlight what's most relevant to them rather than pushing the same offer to everyone. If someone has already bought a product, you can follow up with guidance, add-ons, or support content that helps them get more value from it. The result is better engagement, because the message feels like it was written for them, not for an audience. Personalization also changes how customers feel in interactions. When a brand remembers preferences, adapts communication style, or anticipates needs, it creates a sense of recognition. That recognition builds trust, and trust builds loyalty. People are far more likely to return to brands that make their experience feel smooth, familiar, and considerate. The most effective personalization often comes from bespoke offers and recommendations. This doesn't mean discounts for everyone. It means creating tailored prompts that match what customers actually want. In e-commerce, that might be suggested products based on past purchases. In services, it might be recommending the right next step based on someone's stage, goals, or previous questions. In both cases, the point is the same. Make the decision easier by showing what's most likely to be useful. To do this well, you need reliable data collection. A good CRM helps track customer interactions and preferences. Analytics platforms help you understand behavior, patterns, and drop-off points. And feedback tools, like surveys and short check-ins, bring in direct insight that behavior alone can't reveal. Combined, these tools give you a clearer picture of who your customers are and what they value, so you can personalize with accuracy rather than guesswork. Personalization also has a long-term impact. When customers feel understood, they stay longer, buy more often, and become less price-sensitive over time because the relationship feels stronger than the transaction. They also become advocates. If the experience is consistently relevant and helpful, customers share it. They recommend the brand because it made their life easier. The key is to keep personalization respectful. Use data to reduce friction, not to feel invasive. Be clear about what you collect and why. Give customers control where it matters. When personalization is done with care, it doesn't just boost conversions, it deepens trust and strengthens loyalty. Ultimately, personalized experiences are a trust strategy. They show customers that you're paying attention, that you understand their context, and that you're building around their needs, not just your own. Going the extra mile. If you want to stand out, you can't rely on meeting expectations. Most businesses do that. The real difference comes from what happens just after the standard experience ends. Going the extra mile is about creating moments customers remember. It's the feeling that a brand didn't just deliver a product or a service, it delivered care, attention, and follow-through. And that's what turns a one-time purchase into a long-term relationship. One of the simplest ways to exceed expectations is to personalize the experience, not in a gimmicky way, but in a practical way, remembering what a customer bought last time, picking up the conversation where it left off. making recommendations that actually match their needs. When people feel recognized, the whole experience feels smoother and trust builds faster. Another strong strategy is anticipation. Customers love it when a business solves a problem before they've had to ask. If someone regularly orders the same thing, offer a simple repeat option. If a product has common setup issues, send the guidance before the support request arrives. If a customer reaches a milestone, acknowledge it. Small proactive actions reduce friction and make the brand feel genuinely supportive. Proactive customer service is part of this too. Checking in after a purchase. Asking if everything arrived as expected. Making it clear where support lives and how to reach it. This kind of outreach isn't about chasing praise. It's about showing customers they're not on their own after the transaction. It also surfaces problems early, before they become complaints. Support improves dramatically when customers have extra resources available. People don't always want to wait for a reply. Often, they just want a clear answer. Fast. That's where strong self-serve support makes a difference. Helpful FAQs, short instructional videos, simple guides, and live chat for quick questions. The aim is to make help easy to access, in the format customers prefer. A dedicated resource hub can take this further. Think of it as a how to succeed library for your product or service. Guides, tips, best practices, troubleshooting, and examples. This doesn't just reduce support load. It positions the brand as useful and competent, and it helps customers get better outcomes, which improves retention. Follow-up communication is another underrated trust builder. A simple thank you message, a check-in, or a request for feedback tells customers they matter beyond the sale. And when follow-ups are relevant, they become valuable rather than noisy. If a customer bought something specific, follow up with care instructions, usage tips, or the next logical step. If they've interacted with a particular service, share updates that genuinely relate to it. Then there are these small gestures that create lasting positive impressions. A handwritten note, a surprise upgrade, early access, a thoughtful discount that feels earned, not random. These things don't need to be expensive. They need to feel intentional. Customers remember effort, and they share stories that feel personal. All of this builds one thing: reputation. A reputation for exceptional service isn't created by one big moment. It's created by consistency. Every touch point, from first inquiry to long-term support, should reflect the same standard: clarity, care, and reliability. That requires a customer-centric culture inside the business, where staff are trained, supported, and empowered to solve problems without passing customers around. Feedback matters here as well. When you ask for it, respond to it, and improve because of it, customers feel heard. And when customers feel heard, they stay. Going the extra mile isn't about perfection. It's about effort that shows. That's what customers notice, remember, and recommend. Delivering reliability and stability. Reliability is one of the most valuable promises a business can make. Not because it sounds impressive, but because customers build their decisions around it. If they believe you'll show up consistently, they stay. If they're unsure, they hesitate. And once hesitation creeps in, trust starts to weaken. That's why operational resilience matters. It's the ability to keep delivering, even when something goes wrong. And in a market that changes quickly, something will go wrong at some point. Systems fail, suppliers slip, priorities shift. The question isn't whether disruption happens, it's whether your service holds steady when it does. Resilience starts with risk awareness. You look at the parts of the business that could break under pressure, and you strengthen them before they're tested. That might mean building more robust technology, creating fallback processes for outages, or planning alternative routes when supply chains stall. It also means having clear contingency plans, so when the unexpected happens, the team isn't improvising from scratch. The people side matters just as much as the systems. A resilient operation needs a workforce that can adapt. That doesn't happen through optimism. It happens through training, clear roles, and practice. When teams are prepared for different scenarios, they respond faster, make better decisions, and keep service levels stable. And customers can feel that stability, even if they never see the work happening behind the scenes. Consistency also depends on how well you understand customer needs. A customer-centric approach isn't a slogan, it's a method. You stay close to the customer, gather feedback regularly, and look for patterns in behavior and demand. When you know what customers value most, you can prioritize the service elements that matter most and protect those first during pressure. Operational consistency improves when processes are clear. Standard operating procedures are not about bureaucracy, they're about alignment. When everyone follows the same playbook, service becomes more predictable. That predictability reduces errors, speeds up delivery, and improves the customer experience because customers aren't getting a different outcome depending on who they speak to. The best systems also evolve, so those processes should be reviewed regularly and improved as the business grows. Reliability is what turns trust into loyalty. Customers don't trust brands because of what they claim. They trust brands because of what they experience repeatedly. Delivering on time, communicating clearly, doing what you said you would do, fixing issues quickly. These are the building blocks of credibility. And when challenges hit, the way you manage them matters more than the challenge itself. A resilient business doesn't pretend everything is fine. It stays calm, communicates early, and protects the customer experience as much as possible. If there's a delay, explain it. If there's an outage, acknowledge it and give realistic timelines. If there's a constraint, offer alternatives. Customers can handle bad news. What they struggle with is silence and uncertainty. Maintaining operational stability also means committing to continuous improvement. Regularly reviewing processes, identifying weak points, and making small upgrades over time keeps the business agile. Involving employees in that process helps too, because the people closest to the work often see friction first. When teams feel ownership over improving operations, resilience becomes part of the culture, not a one-off project. Technology can support stability when it's used properly. Automation can reduce repetitive work and prevent human error. Cloud-based tools can improve collaboration and continuity if teams need to work from different locations. The goal isn't tech for tech's sake. The goal is a system that stays reliable under strain. Finally, long-term stability depends on learning. Markets change, customer expectations shift, and new problems appear. Businesses that invest in staff development build a workforce that can adapt without panic. That improves service consistency, strengthens morale, and reduces the operational drag that comes from constant firefighting. Reliability and stability don't happen by accident, they're designed, and when they're designed well, customers feel it as confidence. They know they can depend on you, and that confidence is one of the strongest competitive advantages a business can have. The impact of trust on loyalty. Trust is one of the strongest forces in customer loyalty because it removes doubt. When customers trust a brand, they don't feel like every purchase is a risk, they feel safe, and when people feel safe, they stay. That's why trust influences retention so directly. Customers who trust you are more likely to return, even when budgets tighten or competitors offer tempting alternatives. They're also less likely to churn because they don't feel the need to shop around for reassurance. If a brand consistently delivers what it promises, loyalty becomes the default behavior. Trust also stabilizes revenue. A loyal customer base creates predictability, and predictability gives a business room to plan, invest, and improve. Over time, trust strengthens reputation too. When customers have repeat positive experiences, they talk about it. That creates a cycle where trust drives loyalty, and loyalty drives more trust through word of mouth. Long-term relationships don't come from one great interaction. They come from consistency. Trust is built through repeated proof, clear communication, reliable delivery, and transparency when things change. The brands that keep customers long-term are usually the brands that communicate like humans, not like scripts, and that don't disappear when there's a problem. When a business is honest about challenges and steady in how it responds, customers feel included rather than managed. That emotional connection matters because people don't just buy outcomes, they buy confidence. Personalization can strengthen this trust too, as long as it's done with care. When a brand tailors the experience to what a customer actually needs, it signals attention. It shows the customer they're not just a number in a system. That feeling of being understood increases satisfaction. And it reinforces loyalty because the experience feels designed for them. Trust is also a driver of engagement. Customers who trust you don't just buy, they interact. They reply to messages, follow updates, ask questions, and participate in conversations. And engaged customers often become advocates. They recommend the brand because the experience felt dependable, and because recommending it feels like helping someone else avoid risk. Trust also makes feedback easier to earn. When customers believe you'll listen and respond fairly, they're more willing to share honest opinions. That feedback becomes a powerful asset. If you act on it, you improve the product, improve the service, and reinforce the trust that encouraged the feedback in the first place. It becomes a loop. Trust creates engagement. Engagement creates insight. Insight creates improvement, and improvement reinforces trust. If you want to build loyalty through trust, the strategies are simple, but they require discipline. Prioritize customer service, because service is where trust is tested in real time. Be transparent about pricing, policies, and expectations, because clarity reduces anxiety. Reward loyalty in a way that feels genuine, because recognition strengthens emotional connection. Communicate consistently, especially during change, because silence creates doubt. Show empathy when customers raise concerns, because being understood is often as important as being helped. And if you want to measure the impact of trust, focus on signals that reflect loyalty in action. Track retention. Track repeat purchases. Track customer lifetime value. Track referrals and advocacy. Pay attention to feedback quality and response rates. These are the indicators that tell you whether trust is growing or eroding. In the end, trust is not a brand statement. It's a customer experience. And when that experience is consistently reliable, loyalty becomes the natural outcome. Financial stability through trust. Trust isn't just a customer experience goal, it's a financial strategy. When customers trust a brand, they come back. Repeat business happens because the customer feels confident that what they'll receive will match what was promised. They don't have to second guess the quality, worry about the process, or brace themselves for a surprise. That confidence reduces friction, and friction is what often pushes customers to try alternatives. Over time, trust increases customer lifetime value. Loyal customers don't just repeat the same purchase, they explore more of what you offer. They're more open to upgrades, add-ons, and new products because the risk feels lower. That creates a compounding effect. Trust drives loyalty, loyalty drives revenue, and consistent revenue reinforces the brand's position in the market. A loyal customer base also creates stability. It turns revenue into something more predictable, which gives a business room to plan instead of constantly reacting. In uncertain periods, that matters even more. When new customer acquisition slows, loyal customers keep the lights on. They also become advocates, sharing positive experiences and recommending the brand to others. That word-of-mouth growth is one of the most cost-effective ways to expand, and it's powered by trust. If you want consistent revenue, the foundation is consistent behavior. That means doing the trust basics relentlessly. Start with customer service, not performative service, but reliable service, clear answers, quick responses, and calm problem solving. When issues happen, the speed and tone of the resolution often matters more than the issue itself. Customers remember how you handled it. Then add personalization, but keep it purposeful. Use what you know to make the experience easier. Tailor recommendations to what customers actually care about. Offer relevant follow-ups. Recognize returning customers with small, thoughtful touches. The goal is to make people feel understood, not watched. Trust is also tightly linked to financial resilience. Businesses that earn trust can absorb shocks more effectively because they have a customer base that doesn't disappear at the first sign of disruption. During tough periods, trusted brands can communicate openly, adjust service delivery, and still maintain support because customers are willing to stay with them through change. Ethical behavior and transparency are part of this too. Customers pay attention to how businesses act, not just what they sell. When your policies are clear, your pricing is straightforward, and your decisions feel fair, trust strengthens. And when trust strengthens, customers become more forgiving when something goes wrong, because they believe your intent is solid. Long-term financial planning works better when trust is treated as an asset you protect. That means measuring satisfaction, gathering feedback, and acting on it. It also means training your team to deliver the same standard of experience every time, because trust collapses when customers get inconsistent outcomes depending on the day, the channel, or the person they speak to. In the end, trust creates financial stability because it creates predictable customer behavior. Repeat purchases, lower churn, stronger referrals, more resilience under pressure. And that combination is what allows a business to grow without becoming fragile. Adaptability and innovation. Adaptability looks like speed on the outside, but it's built on stability behind the scenes. And one of the strongest forms of stability a business can have is trust. When customers trust you, they don't disappear the moment something changes. They stay engaged. They give you room to adjust. That loyalty becomes a kind of operating buffer. It gives the business the breathing space to respond to market shifts, test improvements, and evolve without constantly fearing churn. Trust also makes collaboration easier. Customers are more willing to share what's not working. Partners are more willing to align. Teams are more confident making decisions because they're not operating in panic mode. When trust exists, the business can focus on solving problems instead of constantly proving itself. Innovation, in practice, is often just structured listening. The most useful ideas usually come from the friction customers experience every day. That's why feedback matters, not as a formality, but as a signal system. If you create clear ways for customers to share insights, like surveys, quick check-ins, support follow-ups, or direct conversations, you get closer to what customers actually need, not what you assume they need. The most important part is closing the loop. Gathering feedback is only half the job. The value comes from reviewing it regularly, spotting patterns, and using those patterns to shape decisions. That's where innovation becomes less about big ideas and more about consistent improvement. Customer insights become even more powerful when you organize them properly. Segmenting customers helps you see that not everyone wants the same thing. Different groups have different goals, different concerns, and different definitions of value. When you understand those differences, you can tailor experiences and products more precisely, and you stop trying to solve everything with one generic approach. Analytics can support this by revealing behavior, not just opinions, what people click, where they drop off, what they repeat, what they avoid. When you combine behavioral data with direct feedback, you get a clearer picture of what's happening and why. That clarity helps you prioritize improvements that actually move the needle. Inside the organization, adaptability depends on culture. A culture of continuous improvement encourages teams to experiment, refine, and learn without fear. It creates an environment where people are allowed to say, "This isn't working," and then do something about it. It also encourages employees to look for efficiencies and better methods, rather than accepting friction as normal. Training and shared learning support this. So does cross-team collaboration. Some of the best improvements happen when departments stop working in isolation and start solving problems together, because customers experience the business as one system, not separate teams. Trust plays a crucial role when the market shifts. During change, customers pay attention to tone and transparency. If they trust you, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt while you evolve. If they don't, even small changes can trigger concern. Trust acts like a cushion. It reduces resistance, lowers anxiety, and makes transitions smoother. In a volatile market, adaptability isn't just about reacting quickly. It's about evolving without breaking relationships. And that's why trust and innovation are linked. Trust gives you the space to improve. Customer insight tells you what to improve. And continuous improvement keeps you relevant, even as everything around you changes.